What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to another episode of My Two Cents True Crime Podcast. Today, we're going to continue our conversation about the Idaho 4 investigation. There is some great news, or let's say great news for the investigation, some breaking news, so to speak. But before we get into that, I'd like to get into a little bit about the defamation case that is being brought forth by one of the University of Idaho teachers to one of the TikTokers who basically put out a direct allegation without any true evidence, and she's being brought to trial for defamation. And with this latest and greatest breaking news, it's safe to say that this TikToker is probably a little worried at this point. But the latest news is police do have a suspect in custody. Grizzly just finished watching the Grizzly True Crime probably about 30 minutes ago or so, and she did a great breakdown of this gentleman. I want to bring it up on screen right now. His name is Brian C. Koberger. He's mentioned in the press release with the police chief and the lead prosecutor. But this guy, Brian C. Koberger, is a suspect in custody as of right now, December 30th. In the wee hours of the morning, they snatched him out of bed. He's 28 years old, born November 21st, 1994. He's from Allsbrightsville, Pennsylvania. His sister works in mental health. She's registered behavior technician and counselor. What really struck me odd with this guy right here is that he is an academic, so to speak, right? He has degrees. He even has degrees in or a master's of arts in criminal justice from DeSales in Pennsylvania. He just got that degree on May 2022. So a few months prior to committing this atrocity, allegedly, he got this degree. His dad works in heating and ventilation. Grizzly made a great comment in her episode about this, and I would encourage anybody watching this to go check her out. You probably already did. But she mentioned that on scene at 11:22, they did have a heating and ventilation crew on site. So she speculated maybe he did something with that type of system to hide evidence, or who knows, speculation. But she broke it down pretty well. The only previous criminal infraction is from August 2021 for not wearing a seatbelt, so driving without a seatbelt. So this kid's probably, this guy, I say kid, he's a little bit younger than me, but probably a straight arrow, so to speak, with regards to the law, right? Probably a straight arrow. He was arrested in Pennsylvania on December 30th around 3 a.m. A SWAT team entered the location where he was staying in order to take him into custody Friday. He doesn't live there. Right? They got him in the Poconos, but he doesn't live out there. Apparently, he lives in Washington, like a 15-minute drive from 1122. Arrest paperwork filed in Monroe County, Pennsylvania, shows he is being held for extradition in a homicide investigation in Moscow, Idaho. So apparently, and we'll go over that if I pull that up, if I can get that. Up. Let me just get that going. He has an option because everything is innocent until proven guilty. He has an option to deny extradition to Moscow, Idaho, but then they have the opportunity to file paperwork to get the extradition process started. So him getting over or back over to Moscow is going to take a little bit of time if he, tries to put up any type of blockers. I found this on, I want to say, News Nation. I'm still looking. I'm going to look for this thing right now. Well, let's find this one right here. CBS News, ABC
Black
News.
History Month, a time to do more.
He is currently held at Monroe County Prison without bail on first-degree murder charges. So he doesn't have bail there. the lead prosecutor also mentioned that their charges in Idaho are to deny bail as well. So um, there's no chance that he's going to be out on the streets, nor maybe flee from this type of prosecution. Um, in the press release, one of the reporters asked about there's a lot of speculation online going around that this gentleman, Mr. Brian C. Koberger, allegedly asked the arresting officers if anyone else was arrested. So that kind of leans towards the fact that there may be more than one person involved. He may have had help, right? Potentially, allegedly. So we'll see more about that when the prosecution or the proceedings continue when he's back in Moscow and they're starting trials and they're releasing information. Because right now they still have to hold everything close to the chest, right? They can't just start releasing information because now they can jeopardize their trial. They still have a lot of laws to adhere to with regards to this trial process, right? So we want to get a conviction. We don't want anything to slip up. So we want to make sure that, they want to make sure that they keep everything close to the chest. And still, now that we have a suspect, the police are asking for more information, right? If you know anything about this gentleman or some of his friends, or can just lead investigators to gather more information about this gentleman, they encourage everybody to hit the tip line. So if any of you who are watching this know anything, hit that tip line, give them any information about this gentleman, or anyone around him that could potentially lead them to learning more about this gentleman, right? Not to say that they don't already know any of that information already. They have to keep all that stuff close to the chest. Let's bring up this ABC News video, right, about this.
York, we're coming on the air with breaking news in the murders of those 4 University of Idaho college students. Officials in Moscow, Idaho, right now holding a press conference announcing an arrest in the case. Let's listen.
Last night, in conjunction with the Pennsylvania State Police, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, detectives arrested 28-year-old Brian Christopher Koberger in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, on a warrant for murders of Ethan, Zana, Madison, and Kaylee. I want to personally thank these agencies for their assistance in this case. Koberger resides in Pullman, Washington, and is a graduate student at Washington State University. We will provide as much information as we can about the extradition to Idaho and the criminal process. However, due to Idaho state law, we are limited in what information we can release today until Koberger has his initial appearance in Idaho court.
Yeah, so they have to walk a fine line, right? They definitely have to walk a fine line and make sure that they don't make any type of missteps, because the last thing we need is for this guy who allegedly committed these heinous crimes to somehow get off or walk or even get accepted bail or anything like that because the investigative team, made a mistake or let out some information that could potentially jeopardize the trial or the right to a fair trial for the suspect in custody.
I want to express my appreciation to our local community, the people of Idaho, and those throughout our nation who provided information to help us investigate these murders has been very impressive. We've received over 19,000 tips, and we've conducted over 300 interviews. To recap this case, on the evening of November 12th, Kaylee and Madison arrived home at about 1:56 a.m. after visiting a local bar and street food vendor. Ethan and Zana were at the Sigma Chi house before arriving home around 1:45 a.m. The 2 surviving roommates had also been in the community but returned around 1 a.m.
So sad.
On the morning of November 13th,
let me pause real quick right there. I want to mention something. So, Police Chief Fry just made a mention to the 2 surviving roommates. Now that they have a suspect in custody, one of the things I want to find out about, hopefully they can shed some more information about, is what happened in that moment with while he was committing that crime, that he stopped and didn't continue, right? Because there's a we speculated, there was a whole bunch of speculation as to why these two survivor roommates survived. But there could be like the most, mundane situation. I don't even know if I'm using that word correctly. That could have stopped him in his tracks. There was how, we did get police cam footage, excuse me, of officers stopping some students out in that big field. Um, who knows, speculation when that officer turned on his lights, if he turned on his lights to alert those students, hey, I'm going to come over here and talk to you guys. If those lights shine in some windows, that may have potentially stopped them in his tracks and say, oh, I got to get out of here now. Or, was there like frantic text messages coming in? Because the speculation is that this guy said, was anyone else involved? Now I'm going to go back down that rabbit hole. We're going to go through a little bit of speculation, but if there was a second individual involved, maybe there were some frantic text messages or calls coming through saying, hey, this police activity, 60, 100 yards away, you got to get the heck out of there. And, this guy ends up just getting out of there. And now the other two roommates, that's why they survived. So I'm curious to see what happened there.
It was made at 11:58 a.m., reporting an unconscious person at the residence. The call came from inside the home from one of the surviving roommates' cell phones. Moscow police responded and found 2 victims on the 2nd floor and 2 victims on the 3rd floor. On November 17th, autopsies were conducted and the Lake County coroner confirmed the identity of the 4 victims. The cause and manner of death was homicide by stabbing. Some had defensive wounds, and each had been stabbed multiple times. These murders have shaken our community, and no arrest will ever bring back these young students. However, we do believe justice will be found through the criminal process. This was a very complex and extensive case. We had developed a clear picture over time, and we stand assured that the work is not done, but be assured the work is not done. This has just started. Since November, we have remained laser focused on pursuing every lead in our pursuit of justice for the victims and their families. I recognize the frustration with the lack of information that's been released. However, providing any details in this criminal investigation might have tainted the upcoming criminal prosecution or alerted the suspect of our progress.
Yes, that's why they have to keep their cards so close to the chest, which opened the doors for a lot of us to speculate a little bit. When there was a lot of gaps in the information, so that leads us down winding roads when our minds are allowed to travel in that way. But what turned out happening was just an individual we don't know yet how he's connected to these students, or if this was just a random house that he was just spotlighted and just kept track of, and with a 15-minute drive away from the house. I mean, you could imagine how often he was probably out there in those backwoods watching. There was another podcast I saw where the individual had brought on to his show a criminal on death row, right? And he made a mention in part of his profile on just a little bit of information that we got, that potentially this guy was a lone guy and probably watched that house for a long time and probably sat in those backwoods area. And he said that he would tell investigators to look in that area for any signs of that type of activity. Because when you're back there doing that for so long, you're going to get bored as a human being, right? So if you're standing back there, he said, check in standing height for carvings in the trees, potentially with the knife in his hand, stacking of rocks, anything like that. So who knows? Maybe they did. Maybe they found something, potentially, but we don't know, because if there's no DNA evidence, I want to say CODIS, from committing any crime in his past. I mean, we saw that he only had a minor infraction, then that would lead me to suggest that they got some type of fingerprint some type of fingerprint that was able to identify him. Whether it's from that glass window that we all saw, or from some other type of surface, or maybe checking those backwoods. There was something to link this gentleman to them, maybe with another linking of DNA that now that um, they can get from him now that he's in custody and link him to the crime. But potentially, I want to think that they probably got some type of fingerprints to identify this gentleman. If he was like a straight arrow with no other infractions, when you get arrested for being drunk or anything like that, they take your fingerprints, right? So your fingerprints can be in the system for even the most minor of thing. It doesn't necessarily have to include a major crime, assault, robbery, anything like that. It could be from drunken disorderly. Maybe you get into a fist fight, altercation at a bar, or something like that. Um, so that's how I think they got that information, but they have to keep that close to their chest. They can't say we have identifying fingerprints or da 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 da, because then that person knows, like, oh shit, they're gonna catch me at some point. Maybe that person commits suicide, or that person starts to go on the run and uh, uh, forces the timeline a little longer than what it should be if they just kept their information close to their chest. So, which is why I can see why they did that, and I want to give a big thanks to the law enforcement community for keeping us safe from this type of crimes, or at least trying to bring justice for the families. I'm sure these law enforcement officers in Idaho, the Idaho State Police, Moscow Police Department, even the FBI, who came in to help with this investigation. I mean, I'm sure they did not stop. They were not going to stop until they caught this guy. Um, and they did. I mean, 45 or so days later, and we're like, oh, 45 days, but man, that could be 5 years. It could be 15 years. You never know. Um, so 45 or so days, give or take a couple. I mean, that's pretty good to have a suspect in custody, bring justice to the family. I think that's very important.
We will
And
continue
they
to
knew it
provide
was
as much
important.
information as we can as the process moves forward. Today, I want to specifically thank our dedicated Moscow Police Department detectives, patrol officers, the Idaho State detectives, the Idaho State troopers, and their crime lab technicians and scientists, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation for the resources and personnel to conduct this massive investigation. It was the dedication of them and the persistence and the numerous hours that led to an arrest. Fortunately, these highly skilled people worked together as a cohesive team to solve this case. I also want to thank our community and the nation. Over the past 6 weeks, I've been continually reminded of how much our community cares. Locally, public support has been exceptional, with kind words, food for investigators, and letters of support. You will never know how much your words of encouragement help us through these trying times. I appreciate each of you and each of your kindness. Agencies and individuals from across the nation have reached out to us to express their support to this department. I'm reminded how our Moscow community, our families, and the nation has been impacted by this daily. Finally, I do want to thank our media partners for the help. You kept this in the news. You helped us with tips. You kept things going, and we truly appreciate that. And you are the product of those 19,000 tips that we received, which is an impressive number.
Yeah. Wow, that's an impressive number. I mean, and not only their news partners, but also the online community, the sleuthers, who unfortunately as a whole, we try to do good. We try to bring, not unfortunately, fortunately as a whole, we try to do good and bring some information, some education, and just some entertainment as well, right? There is an entertainment aspect of it. Not I don't want to say like it's a good entertainment, but the community is brought here because we are intrigued uh, by these type of cases, the whys, the whos, the whats, the speculation, the proper way, right? And they're also a part of that, right? They also help bring in tips. Um, they help activate the community. So, not thank you to all the news partners, but all the sleuthers out there who put in some work and did some digging and shared some of their tips too with the Moscow Police Department. You guys did a great job.
I would like to invite Bill Thompson, the county prosecutor, up at this time.
Hey, this guy almost has as good of a beard as I do, huh?
Good afternoon, folks. My name is Bill Thompson. I'm the Latah County prosecutor. And it's sad to be here, but happy to be here at the same time. As Chief Fry indicated, a criminal complaint was filed yesterday here in Latah County, charging the defendant, Mr. Kohlberger, with 4 counts of first-degree murder, in addition to felony burglary, which involves entering the residence with the intent to commit the crime of murder. Mr. Kohlberger, and let me preface, there's a
Is that the face of the masked man?
pending case now in court, and I and my office and the investigators have to live with the restrictions that our Supreme Court places on pretrial publicity. That said, I promise you we will share with you through the court process or otherwise whatever we are allowed to. I just appreciate your patience on that. The factual basis for the charges are summarized in
Let's go back real quick.
court places on.
Oh man, I do not know what I'm doing. You really can't see or tell much. But could this be the face under the mask?
On pretrial publicity. That said, I promise you we will share with you through the court process or otherwise whatever we are allowed to. I just appreciate your patience on that. The factual basis for the charges are summarized in what's called a probable cause affidavit that is on file with the court. According to the rules of the Idaho Supreme Court, that is sealed until Mr. Kohlberger is physically back in Latah County and has been served with the Idaho arrest warrant. At that time, we expect that that affidavit will be available to you so you can share the true facts with all of your readers and your watchers and your listeners and all the people who are interested
Excuse me.
and need to know what's going on. So please have patience with us on that. We hope to get that to you as soon as we can. As far as Mr. Kohlberger, I can share with you that he is a graduate student at Washington State University and has an apartment residence over in Pullman. He has had an initial appearance in front of a judge in Pennsylvania. He is being held without bond, and the warrant from our magistrate judge here also provides for no bond. We understand that he's scheduled to be
No
back
bond.
in court in Pennsylvania next Tuesday afternoon, and that a public defender has been appointed for him there. The process at this point is, since he was arrested in another state, he has the opportunity to either waive extradition and return voluntarily to the state of Idaho, or if he prefers not to waive extradition, then we will initiate extradition proceedings through our governor's office. If we do that, it can take a while for him to get here. So again, I'm asking for your patience and understand that's just the way the system works.
Salud.
Once he gets here, he'll have an initial appearance with our magistrate. They'll deal with issues such as making sure competent counsel is representing him, and the case will be scheduled for further hearings.
Mm-hmm.
Your primary source of factual information is going to be the court record, because that's what the Supreme Court says we need to refer you to. So please pay attention to what's going on in court and have people there to watch and hear what's being said. As an attorney, myself and my office, we are limited on what we are allowed by the courts to say outside of the courtroom. So please just work with us. Finally, as the chief indicated, this is not the end of this investigation. In fact, this is a new beginning. You all now know the name of the person who has been charged with these offenses.
Yep.
Please get that information out there.
Brian C. Kohlberger.
Anyone who knows about this individual to come forward, call the tip line. Report anything you know about him to help the investigators and eventually our office and the court system understand fully everything there is to know about not only the individual, but what happened and why.
And the biggest thing is the why, right? Why? Why would this guy do that? Allegedly.
Next, I'll introduce Colonel Ked Wells from the Idaho State Police. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon. My name is Kedrick Wills. I serve as a director of the Idaho State Police and certainly want to express our appreciation for your attendance here today. These tragic murders took 4 young, vibrant lives from our community. Nothing we do can bring them back. The only thing that we can do in law enforcement to honor their memories that we know of is to bring this to a successful conclusion. This has been a very difficult time for the families, the university, the community, and the state of Idaho. However, it is also proven that communities come together in tough times. Certainly appreciate the support of the local community and our national audience that has been following us as our investigators have worked through this case. I'm thankful also to you, the media partners, who have helped keep this case in the forefront that generates the tips and we hope will continue to generate information that will help us to a conclusion of this proceeding. I'd like to express our appreciation on behalf of the Idaho State Police to Chief Fry, his leadership, and the entire Moscow Police Department for the way that they handled this from the very beginning. He directed the right people to the right positions that led us to this conclusion today. I've had the utmost confidence in this investigation and in Chief Fry, as well as in Mr. Bill Thompson and the Latah County Prosecutor's Office, who've been a great partner throughout this. Nothing has deterred the commitment of the investigators who've worked on this case, regardless of the organization they represent. It's been very trying and very difficult, as you know, that it has been on those investigators as they do the tedious work that they're so good at doing.
And honestly, like throughout the holidays too, Christmas, major holiday, they want to spend it with their family, but I guarantee you that all of these investigators were gung-ho about staying on task and continuing the investigation, sacrificing time with their family and their loved ones to try to get a break in this case. And I want to speculate that they probably got that break in the case when all of the FBI, when they increased the amount of FBI support, right? It went from like 40 something agents to about around 60. I think that's probably when they got some evidence back from the labs, potential fingerprints, and then it was like, okay, now it's time to go and escalate this and continue to put the puzzle together to get this guy in custody.
The partnerships is what's led here as well. The partnerships between Moscow Police Department, I'd like to express our appreciation with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, specifically the special agent in charge out of the Salt Lake City Division, Dennis Rice, and also the work that happened in the last 24 hours in Pennsylvania with the arrest with the Pennsylvania State Police and Colonel Evanchik with the Pennsylvania State Police. We appreciate what they've done across the nation to help us as well. As Bill shared, this investigation is far from over. In fact, I appreciate what he shared, that this is not an ending, but rather a new beginning. The difference now is, as he shared, that we are dictated what information we can share by the court process and by laws in our state of Idaho. And so we will share, as he shared, Mr. Thompson is absolutely committed to share everything he can share through the court process. We've got to make sure that we don't get in front of that process. And we really deeply appreciate everybody's support here. The relationships that were forged here and the partnerships that were forged have led to this. And based on that is why we're here today. And we continue to believe that the best way we can honor these 4 lives that have been taken is to make sure that we have a successful outcome here.
We need that conviction next. We need it.
Partnership with the University of Idaho. And on that, I'd like to introduce the president of the University of Idaho, Mr. Scott Green. Thank you. Good afternoon. Scott Green, President, University of Idaho. Today's news of arrest is a welcome one. It's relief to our university, our community, and our extended Vandal family. The outpouring of support over the past 6 weeks helped sustain us during the most trying time. It provided the strength that helped us navigate the international scrutiny visited on our students and employees. We are truly thankful for the compassion and acts of kindness shown to our community. Kindness is contagious, and it provided the light that reclaimed ground lost to evil and darkness. We first want to acknowledge and thank Governor Little for the early promise of financial support that enabled the university to secure our campus and focus on helping our students and our employees in the wake of the crimes. We also appreciate the Idaho State Police and the highly visible security presence that brought comfort and calm to a community shocked and confused by the senseless crimes. We never lost faith that this case would be solved and are grateful for the hard work of the Moscow Police Department and their law enforcement partners. Vast and committed FBI resources brought important expertise to this complex case. Across the board, dedicated, highly competent personnel worked this case to arrest. This crime has nevertheless left a mark on our university, our community, and our state. While we cannot bring back Maddie, Kaylee, Zana, and Ethan, we can thoughtfully and purposefully carry their legacy forward in the work that we do. Our students come first, and that was proven each and every day of this investigation. We are committed to safely delivering the college town atmosphere, campus experience, and high-touch quality education for which the University of Idaho is known. With time, we will heal. We will move forward together, and we will remain Vandal strong.
Hi, everyone.
That's the end of that press release. So, I mean, that's the latest and greatest breaking news. They do have a custody suspect in custody, which is awesome. Leading in right before the new year, the family was also having a celebration of life today for two of the slain victims. The father mentioned he didn't want to have any type of funeral celebration like that until a suspect was in custody. So the universe granted him that. He was able to make sure that the suspect wasn't there celebrating the life of his daughter, of one of these victims. I'm going to end the episode there. Thanks for watching. We finally got justice for the families, justice for the community. Now that there's some type of closure for this family, and now we just have to wait for the trial. Wait to get some of the questions answered that we've been asking for so long. So yeah, that's all I have. Thanks for watching. Yeah, if you like the show, if you like what you see, or just want to show some support, don't forget to hit that follow button, that like button, that subscribe button. They're free 99. You know what I mean? Doesn't hurt you. So hit that button, and I'll catch you on the next one.